Ankeny in 1940 was a very different place than it is today. In 1940, Ankeny had a population of 779 people. There were 317 school children and 17 teachers in the Ankeny School District. The town contained a small business district located along 3rd Street between Des Moines Street and School Street. Until the 1930s, most of the land surrounding Ankeny had been used for farming operations. The land southwest of Ankeny, south of 1st Street and west of Cherry Street, contained small family farms. There were 3 churches, a roller rink, movies shown once a week in an implement store, and no bars serving alcohol. What was the town of Ankeny like at that time?
We had 700 people. We didn't have dirt. We had gravel roads. We didn't have dirt roads. The cars would go in the paths of the tracks. You know, you go in how a dirt road would be. They'd have those gullies. You'd just put your car in the gullies and away you'd go.
During 1941, Nazi Germany and Italy were waging war against its European neighbors. Despite isolationist feelings in the United States at the time, President Roosevelt, as Great Britain struggled to fight against Germany, called for America to become the arsenal of democracy. The U.S. Congress passed the Lend-Lease Act, allowing for sale and lease of war materials and implements to countries involved in fighting the Axis powers of Italy and Germany. The United States experienced a massive buildup of industrial production of military equipment and supplies. In Iowa, however, the quiet farms and towns seemed far removed from the wars in Europe. That changed, however, in the summer of 1941, when farmers on the southern edge of Ankeny began receiving notices to vacate their homes through the U.S. government's use of eminent domain. The United States government, in the interest of national security, paid the farmers for their homes and land and forced them to vacate the property. Now, before they gave you the 10-day notice, had they talked to your family ahead of that?
No, we just made an announcement about the last week of June. We heard it on the news one day there first, and then they came out with it and said they're going to build a Des Moines Ordnance Plant out there. Everybody out there would have to move.
Some homes were moved into town, but most homes were torn down.
Or maybe they've told you that some of them houses that they had out here in this plant, they brought them in, moved them into Ankeny. So there's houses in here that were out on this land.
No, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's one of the fellows that real estate. I don't know if he was a real estate man or what, but he knew of the plant getting rid of these houses, and he bought up a bunch of lots in Ankeny. And
Alfie Wilson.
Alfie Wilson. He bought the land, and then he moved these houses from the plant into Ankeny. In fact, there's one right just across the street here, and F.W. Fitch, remember him?
Yeah.
Well, his house is in Ankeny on 2nd Street.
A notice was sent to Ankeny officials instructing them to plan for massive growth to accommodate the Des Moines Ordnance Plant and thousands of its employees. The war had come to Iowa's heartland. Within weeks of the first notice, families moved, construction was underway, and the town was making plans to become a city. Plans for roads, sewer, water supplies, and housing for hundreds, possibly thousands, had to be considered by city officials. To accommodate the incoming workers, a vacant lot on 3rd Street, just east of what is now Fire Trucker Brewery, was purchased, and a bathhouse to accommodate 80 families was built, and trailer space was for rent.
A lot of people, and people come from all over. We had them from the south, we had them from all over, and in that time, people would come with trailers, and they'd park in people's yards. Everybody's parked in everybody's yard, and they used their bathrooms and everything else. There was no restriction. Everybody, and all the kids come to school here because they thought it was wonderful. We had snow. You know, the people in the south, they really enjoyed it because we had snow.
Security was tight at the construction site and at the completed ordnance plant.
Can you describe the working conditions, like when you started out?
Very good conditions. We had patrolmen, and they were all government. I mean, there were people that were deferred from the Army. That's who were the patrolmen. And they would patrol the whole building. You couldn't go in and out of that building. When you went into the building, you stayed there. When you come in, you had to show your certificate that you had on here, where you were going and everything as you went in. And when you come out, they searched you. They searched everything you had. as you come out. And they had,
Within the confines of the Des Moines Ordnance Plant, raw materials of brass, gunpowder, lead, and steel came together with 19,000 employees to produce almost 4 billion 30 and 50 caliber cartridges for Browning machine guns, M1 rifles, and Browning automatic rifles. The Ordnance Plant also had its own fire department and hospital.
everything out there. We had a complete, well, it was a city. We didn't have to come to Ankeny. It was a city within a city. We had our own fire department out there. We had our own police department out there. We had a print shop out there, laundry shop. We had everything out there.
Almost 45% of the workforce were women. A noisy, dangerous, and complicated effort continued 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 4.5 years. Most of the hourly production workers earned 45 to 50 cents an hour, which in 2016 money would be equal to $7 to $8 an hour.
So when you worked there, would you say you made enough money to make a living? And
No,
live
well,
healthy?
75 cents an hour is what we got paid.
And back then, was that enough to
That was
feed
good
yourself?
money. That was good money for.
Some of the other people that we had interviewed had told us that when they were packing the bullets into the wooden crates that you had mentioned that they built the houses with, that some of the women might slip messages
We
in
put
it?
messages into the boxes. Yes, we put messages into the soldiers, and some of the soldiers would return mail, return the postage back to us.
On May 8, 1945, Germany surrendered, and by July 1945, the War Department changed the plant's status to standby. 10,800 employees started receiving layoff notices. The plant closed on September 1, 1945, one day before Japan signed the formal surrender document aboard the USS Missouri, ending World War II.
So was it a big event when the plant shut down? Or
Yes, because the war was over, and everybody, and then they had a big celebration in Des Moines. They had big parades downtown. It was so thick that you couldn't even get through the streets. It was so much, people threw stuff out of the windows. You couldn't even go down the streets. It was so full.
so all the workers that worked at the ordnance plant when it shut down, what did they do? Where did they go?
Well, they
work?
all went back to some of them went back to where they come from, and a lot of them stayed here.
Today, some of the original Ordnance Plant buildings still stand among the large buildings of the Deere & Company production plant. Most of the land that was vacated for government use is now part of the new Ankeny High School and Southview Middle School complex, as well as DMAC and the Prairie Trail Housing and Business Development area. Without the coming of the Des Moines Ordnance Plant and the way it transformed our small town, Ankeny might be a very different place in which to live today.